If you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you say? I'm Matt Gill, and welcome to another episode of Mornings with Matt. Knowing what you know today, if you had access to a time machine and could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you say to you? Like, what advice would you give yourself? I recently saw a picture of myself back when I was 21 years old, and as I looked at that picture, I kept wondering, man, if only I could go back and talk to that young man, what would I tell him? Like, based on the experiences and things that I've gone through as this 42-year-old man, if only he knew the things that I knew. How often have you thought, man, I wish I knew this a long time ago? You know, growing up, we often hear people say, well, you'll understand when you get to be your parents' age or when you get to be my age. And just think of the benefits, how cool it would be to share some of your experience and some of your knowledge with your younger self. Like, if you could go back in time, if you had access to a time machine and you could go back to your 21-year-old or your 25 or your 30 or your even your 40, like, what would you tell yourself? What are some of the things that you've learned? For me, I know I would tell myself, always remember that you are more than enough. Always remember that you have enough value in who you are. I would tell myself, hey, Matt, believe in you, and everything that you need is already inside of you. Like, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? I once was sitting at the beach and I picked up a pebble, and this is not the pebble, but one similar to it. And I started looking at how smooth the pebble is. And I wondered, how does a pebble get its smoothness? When I started to research the pebble and how pebbles go on this journey, this life journey, realized most pebbles don't start off with the smoothness that this one had. Most rocks start with jagged edges and roughness, and it's the journey that the rock goes on that gives it its smoothness, gives it its shininess. So it goes on a journey just like we go on a journey in our life. Like, there are opportunities and things that we have that build our character, that build who we are, that define who we become and what we believe. It's the journey of the rocks pounding against each other, the challenges that we face in our life, the broken relationships, the upsets, the disappointments, the hurt, the frustrations that pound in our life that creates the smoothness. So often we want to get to the smoothness, we want to get to the shininess, we want to get to that end without going through the journey. And unfortunately, life just doesn't work that way. We have to go on a journey just like this rock. We start off rough, we start with jagged edges, and after our journey, after what we've gone through, we end up smooth and shiny. So this week, I want you to acknowledge your journey. I want you to think back. If you could go into a time machine and tell your younger self, whatever age that is, it could be in your youth, it could be in when you were a teenager, it could be when you were in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. If you could go back and tell yourself something, what would you say to yourself? What would you say to empower? What would you say to heal that younger you? Now, this conversation is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. This is designed for you and I to share. I love reading the comments. I love how we get to chat with each other, and how when you put your comments in, other people start remarking as well, because we're learning together. This is our safe space. This is the place for me to share my journey, you to share your journey, and for us to celebrate our journeys together. Make sure and leave a remark in there. Let us know, what would you tell your younger self? And if you see something that somebody else wrote and you would tell yourself that as well, then take it. If that's something that you need, borrow that thought. I'm your brother in the journey and your brother in possibility, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.